And very happy Saturday to all of you. Hello, everyone. How are you tonight? Tonight has been, well, today has been an interesting day for me. Oh, close the door. Um, so let's see. Got to go to my daughter's first hockey game of the year. Yay! They lost. Boo. My son was off at a cross country meet that he is the only one who was there who didn't get to run. Why didn't he get to run? Because we had a tornado in Massachusetts today. That was coming through the area where I live. And while he was not here, he was actually about an hour south at his cross country meet. There was a huge line of thunderstorms that came through the New England area. And when it started with lightning, when he was supposed to get out there and start running, they decided that maybe they were going to go ahead and call it and not have them run. So, myself, my wife, my daughter, the dogs, the cats, the hamster, we're all huddled down in the basement in case the tornado came through our house. And my son got to just not run in his cross-country meet. So, an interesting Saturday. But it's okay. Now I am here with all of you. So let's talk a little bit about juxtaposition. Because it is time for us to get started with our next reading. We'll be starting on chapter 10 tonight, get through chapter 10, chapter 11. But, as always, we need to start out with a little bit about what happened the last time we were here. Of course, if you weren't here and you wanted to, make sure that you get out there and check out my channel, youtube.com/@SirArminius. I have a juxtaposition playlist just for you to go and click in, and I've got all the chapters that I've read there. So chapter 9 is there, chapter 8 is there, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, all the way back. And, of course, later this evening, chapters 10 and 11, at the very least, will be up there. So, there is no shortage of ways for you to be able to catch up if you're behind. Or if you miss any part of tonight's, you can always stop in and catch those replays. Now let's talk a little bit about what did happen the last time around. So, Style, back in chapter 8, needed to, went back to phase, or to Proton. And he had 3 tasks that he had to complete. He needed to gamble a lot of money because he needs to grow his wealth by leaps and bounds to meet an unknown at this time need. He needs to get himself up to right about 2,000 kilograms, and he started with 1. So a lot of work has to go into it. So he needs to gamble in order to make himself some money, or some protonite, or wealth, or however you want to term it for the land of Proton. He needs to trace a message about how eventually the robot Sheen was sent to him. And he needed to go to a hearing about whether he could designate Sheen as his heir. So he decides, Sheen says, you can do any one of those three. He says, why limit myself? Let's do all three. He invites the citizens who want to gamble with him to his hearing, and they gamble on the outcome of the hearing. And so Style gambles that, yes, they are going to allow me to designate her as my heir. And at least one other citizen, Citizen Walden, says, no, 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 they're not going to. So he bets the other way. They have the hearing, Style goes through all sorts of things, and eventually they land on his side. Yes, this advisory panel will say that Sheen can be designated his heir. Woohoo! There could be a full official hearing still, but the advisory panel says yes. Great, he wins this bet. Happy days. Now they need to trace the message still. So he's gambling. He had his hearing. Now he has to go in and trace the message. They have been stymied because the message passes through a citizen's residence, and the citizen will not allow the surf team access to it. So Style goes in and basically makes the bet that, yep, I can make it through. And he, because of the chances of him not being able to do so, he gets 15-1 odds so basically they're betting, he has to bet 1 kilogram of protonite, which is a big substantial portion of what he has at this point, against whether he can make it in. And the citizens who are betting against him all basically go in and give him 15-1 odds. Style ends up successfully getting through some machinations of his own. And while he is there, he gets caught by the Citizen Sirtis, who basically says, all right, well, I'll go ahead and let you go on your way, but you have to bet all of your winnings against me in what to us was an unknown bet. And so Style comes on out, and he goes in, and he makes his way out, and he tells them that, yes, I had to bet all of my winnings basically, but I can't tell you what the bet is. I will bet everything else I have left, and we'll just do it, and we're randomly going to say we're betting who will have more, or whether there will be more men or women in a given time that walk down this hallway. And I want to say Style ends up losing that bet. First bet that he's lost. He bet on males, and there were more females that walked down the hallway. But in turn, he ends up winning because his bet with Citizen Sirtis was that on the next bet, somebody would choose to cheat. And sure enough, one of the people did. They chose to cheat. So Style walks away with a wealth of 30 kilograms of protonite. Basically, in less than a week, he's gone from 1 kilogram of wealth, of which he could only bet a portion of, to he now has 30 kilograms of protonite in wealth. Go Style. So he not only uncovered the message and where it was going, and they find that basically the message dead ends at the curtain, because the message was sent from the Fade side of the curtain. Don't know how yet, but that's what happened. He, took his winnings. He is worth much, much more now, and he was able to designate at this time Sheen as his heir. He accomplishes all three of his things. Again, style for the win. And then we moved into Chapter 9. Chapter 9 saw the herd stallion and Style going to retrieve Clip. He's being held in the White Mountains by the goblins. Dog in the background. And so they go off and they start to make their way down that way. Style comes up and basically says, hey, you need to be able to get in there without looking like yourself, but your dragon form, not going to work. Your human form, not going to work. Your unicorn form, not going to work. You need to be something else, which unicorns are typically limited to 3 total forms that they could have, the unicorn and 2 others. But the herd stallion says, I am not an ordinary unicorn. I could master a 4th if I wanted to. Style convinces him that he should be able to become a roach, because a roach would be very unobtrusive. So the herd stallion works on it and masters a new form. Or at least gets better at it. Master, get better, one way or the other. Is able to transform into that form. So they go down. The big part of it is that Style should not be casting magic because they don't want to give it away. So he disguises himself as a goblin. He has the herd stallion with him in the form of a roach. He had previously put a spell on him to help to guide them to Clip once they got there. And so that way, continuing magic would not bring about the same issues that new magic would. They get down there. They find Clip. Clip, of course, has had his horn removed. The herd stallion gets into the cage, starts fighting with the goblins in there. The goblins call for help. Style has the horn from Clip. He is melding it back onto Clip. And while they are doing their fighting, and then the White Adept shows up. She is one of those that is opposing him, and basically they choose not to fight each other at first. And she says, let me take the opportunity to try to convince you. She says, look, we know that if you were on the planet, it's not going to be good. Why don't you just leave and go to the farthest part of the galaxy away from the planet and never return? And he says, nah, that ain't going to happen. She tries to recruit him to their side, saying that we are here just trying to save Phase. And we know that you were destined to end it. He's like, this is not what I'm about. I love Phase. I would never be working to end Phase. And so, tries to convince back and forth. Eventually, they determine that, nope, they are not going to come to an agreement between the two of them, and that it is going to end up being a fight between the two of them. Well, a part of that fight is going to be that that basically it's every single adept other than the brown adept who is against Style. Oh, poor Style. So they end their truce. The White Adept and Style are going to basically have to fight it out. Style tells the unicorns, get us out of here. I am going to have to work my way through. Monkey Killer, thank you so much for a little bit of that Amazon Prime Twitch money. I appreciate it. Much, much appreciated, my friend. Sorry, I did not make it last night, by the way. I'd been thinking about it, and my wife and I ended up spending the evening doing stuff together. So I kind of had to go with, spending time with my wife. It's a little thing sometimes. Anyway, um, so Clip and the herd stallion are clearing the way. Style is, prepared to fight off opposing magic. Well, neither did you. So, all right. Well, that works then. So he's fighting off the magic while they are getting him away. Um, and eventually, what ends up happening is that they get to a big, basically, I don't I don't even know what to call it, like a tube in the cave system that will go up, and they could fly out, or it goes down. Style being on the back of the dragon, because the herd stallion transforms himself into his dragon form, is too heavy for the herd stallion to fly him out of there. They are getting attacked on the way. They get attacked by a griffin. And then finally a dragon is coming after them. And basically they're continuing to drop down in this thing because, again, Style is too heavy. That is exactly right, Susan. Welcome on in, by the way. I do, I stream 4 nights a week. So, and my wife oftentimes works at 5 o'clock in the morning. So she goes to bed early. I'm up late. We miss that time. I don't stream on Fridays. So it was nice to be able to actually spend an evening with her. She's got the weekend off. We got to spend Friday evening together. It was good. It's just nice to spend time together. So as they're dropping down, Clip realizes that the curtain is nearby. It's actually in this shaft. Shaft. That was the word I was looking for. Not tube. It was a shaft. The English language. It's hard sometimes. So what's going to end up happening is Styles says, okay, I will spell myself through the curtain. That way the unicorns can get away. He will go through the curtain, and he can make his choices from down there. So they get very close to the bottom. It's basically a pool of water at the bottom, and he goes through the curtain. And that's where we ended chapter 9. And that's where we will pick it up here in chapter 10. So sit back, everyone, relax, and prepare to enjoy as we start another evening of storytime goodness and continue the reading of Juxtaposition by Piers Anthony. As always, if you have not already, please make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you like these books and you like a lot of these readings, please make sure that you're supporting the authors that I am doing them for. Juxtaposition, Piers Anthony, well-known science and fantasy author, has a lot of really good stuff out there. If you haven't checked him out, it's definitely worth a read. Make sure you're supporting the authors as well as we're doing this. Enjoy, everyone. Hey, Joy in general, good to see you. I knew you'd make it eventually. Enjoy, everybody. Again, I do record these, so you will be able to pick them up on the YouTube channel later on as you need to. But it does mean that while I am reading, I won't engage with the audience, but we can talk between chapters. Or you can talk with each other. That's always an option too. Here we go, everyone. Chapter 10, Force. He fell a few feet, or rather a meter or so, knowing he was through the curtain only because he no longer had dragon support. He splashed into the water, feeling the instant shock of cold. He was, of course, an excellent swimmer. No top gamesman neglected such a sport. But the water was polluted, stinking, and perhaps contained harmful acids. The citizens of Proton cared nothing for the planetary environment outside the domes. He didn't want to stay here long. The air, too, was foul. But here in the depths, it was thicker than above and seemed to contain more oxygen. He did not enjoy it, but he could survive longer on it than anticipated. Still, he had another resource. He swam back to the curtain, which passed right down through the water. He organized himself, then willed himself through and said, "Bring nuts and dried fruit, scuba and wetsuit." And the spell, shaped by his imagination, clothed him in a warm, flexible body swimming suit complete with flippers, breathing apparatus, and a bag of mixed nuts and bits of dehydrated fruit. Something formed in the water near him. It was huge and toothed, and it threshed its way toward him with powerful flukes. Style hastily spelled himself back across the curtain. He had done the unexpected and escaped the enemy adepts without using a transport spell. But they remained alert for him. His new equipment went with him. This was one way in which magic and science juxtaposed. He could create or fetch scientific devices by magic in phase and take them across for use in Proton. Now he was comfortable in the water and had food concentrates to sustain him. He could get where he was going. Only, where was he going? He wanted to locate that computer, but where was it? Again, no problem. He prepared himself and passed through the curtain. "Weapon and gem, doslem, doslem," he sang, grabbed the two objects that formed, and dodged back to Proton before the massive crunch of a hostile spell could catch him. The enemy would never have expected him to conjure these particular items. He saw the adept attack through the curtain, a blaze of light silhouetting massive jawless teeth, closing and disappearing as they intersected the demarcation of the curtain. A demon from the depths, indeed. Technically an indirect attack, ascending, but surely fatal to whatever it caught. They were not playing innocent games, these enemy adepts. Now he had what he needed. He could stop playing peekaboo through the curtain, especially since one more trip across it would probably get him crunched. The enemy had targeted him too closely. His scant leeway had been used up. Now he could get where he was going, on the proton side of the curtain. He swam, holding the straps to his last two acquisitions in his teeth. The flippers enabled him to move rapidly through the water. He didn't need light. He could tell where the walls were by the lapping of the waves his swimming made. The chasm narrowed until he was swimming between vertical walls only a couple of meters apart. Still no way up or out. He didn't like this. His special equipment was sealed in watertight packages, but he needed to get on dry land to use it safely. Well, he could dive. He had a hunch there was a way out of here and away from here to the computer oracle, because the goblins needed access to guard it. Of course, this was the other frame, but with the normal parallelism, chances were good there were proton passages too. All he had to do was find them. He dived. He did not fear any monsters in this murky lake. They could not survive in this pollution. But he was careful about sharp jags of rock that might tear his suit. The cleft was wider below, giving him more room to grope about. He should have conjured a light. He hadn't thought of it. On any venture, something important was always forgotten. But one of his instruments had an operating light that he could use for general vision, once he put it into use. The walls closed in above. Good. He did have a passage here, for there was a slight current. Soon he groped upward and discovered a new cavern, and this one had sloping sides that he could scramble up on, getting free of the water. Perched awkwardly on the rock, for his bad knees prevented him from squatting, he opened one of his doslems. This was the weapon, Disruptor Optical Space Light Modulator, DOSLM. He set it on low and activated it. There was a faint humming, beam and a section of the cave wall glowed and sagged, melting without heat. Its particles had been disrupted, losing their cohesion. Solid had turned to liquid. Good enough. The DOSLEM was governed by light beam computer, in which beams of light functioned in lieu of solid circuitry and semiconductor diodes and information chips. It was much more compact than the solid state and could generate potent effects, as the melted patch of wall showed. Now Style turned to the other DOSLEM, the GEM. In this case, the D stood for detector. It was an even more marvelous instrument. A miniature panel controlled its assorted functions of timing, direction, and detection. In his hands, it emitted just enough light to clarify the cave region in which he hunched, and it gave readouts mapping the extent of air-filled and water-filled recesses. There were other caves here, and some were within the range of the disruptor. He could melt a hole through the thinnest section of wall. Some passages were squared off, obviously artificial. His hunch had proved correct. Style checked for refined metals, orienting on copper, aluminum, iron, and gold. Soon he located a considerable cache of these, southeast of his present location. He checked for magnetism and found it in the same region. This certainly seemed to be the computer, or whatever portion of it existed in the frame of Proton. Style scouted about, then selected the thinnest wall to disrupt. He gave the melt time to settle, then stepped through to the adjacent cave. He was on his way. It took time, and on occasion he rested and ate from his supply of nuts and fruit. He located reasonably fresh water by tuning in on it with the detector. He had a sense of location. He was in a cave network whose upper exits he and the Lady Blue had noticed on their honeymoon, after departing the Snow Demon domain. He marched, cut through to a new passage, and marched again, slept, and marched again. He hoped the two unicorns had flown up and out of the cavern system, knowing that he, Style, could take care of himself on the other side of the curtain. There was no way to communicate with them now, since he was no longer near the curtain. They simply had to have faith. At times, as he tramped onward, he thought about the nature of the curtain and the parallel frames. How was it that he could so readily conjure scientific equipment that was inoperative in phase, yet was operative when taken back across the curtain? If it was that solid and real, why couldn't it function in phase? If it was not, why did it work here? The curtain could be a very thin line indeed, when magic so readily facilitated science. Was there no conservation of energy with regard to each frame? Anything taken across the curtain was lost to its frame of origination, wasn't it? Also, how could objects of proton frame design be brought to phase? Did his magic generate them from nothing? Or were they actually stolen from warehouses and factories and hauled through the curtain? He doubted he could visualize the inner workings of a DOSLEM well enough to build one directly, so doubted he could do it by magic either. But the alternative implied a closer connection between frames and greater permeability of the curtain than conventional wisdom supported. Magic would have to reach beyond the curtain, right into the domain of science. There was so much yet to learn about the relationship of frames. And this computer he was searching out, had it really murdered Style's alternate self, the original Blue Adept, by means of a self-fulfilling prophecy? Why? How did all this tie in with the approach of the end of phase and Style's own involvement in that? Was the computer oracle due to perish in that termination of the frame? And Style himself? He paused to review what had been more or less idle speculation. If Style was going to help destroy phase, and the computer was in phase, it might indeed be destroyed too. So maybe it sought to prevent him from participating in this business. Maybe it was really on the same side as the other adepts, so it had generated mischief to eliminate him in both frames, being foiled only by that other message, the one that had brought Sheen to protect him. Yet it had been prophesied that he would help the computer return to Proton, where it would act to destroy Phase. That put him on its side and set it against the Adepts. Maybe the destruction of Phase was inevitable, and the computer needed to cross to Proton in order to escape the Holocaust. But then why should it have tried to kill him twice? That made no sense at all. Maybe he should have taken the time to trace down the source of that mysterious other message, the one that had saved him, before he rescued Clip. No, Clip came first. The Adepts had hurt the unicorn to gain leverage against Style, and Style had to act. Should he resume tracing the message now, instead of going to confront the Oracle? He might have a powerful ally, and with most of the other Adepts against him, he needed one. But that would mean backtracking to the curtain and fighting his way through the barrage of hostile magic directed against him. He could not be sure he would survive that, and certainly he could not thereafter approach the Oracle with any element of surprise. Only by staying with the proton frame route, where magic and prophecy did not exist, could he hope to sneak up on it. He was set on his present course. He would have to continue. He plodded on, and the hours passed. Was it day or night above now? Normally he had a good time sense, but he did need some minimal feedback to keep it aligned. Style also had good endurance, having run marathons in his day, but now he was traveling mainly in the dark, with occasional sips of oxygen from his scuba gear, conserving that life-sustaining gas as much as possible. He was out of food and tired. Only the constant approach to the site indicated by his equipment gave him confidence to keep on. Maybe he should have gotten himself a device to signal Sheen, who could have come to pick him up, making things so much easier. How obvious this was, now that he had ample time to think about it. Yet that would have alerted others to his activity. Since other Adepts had connections in Proton, indeed, some were citizens, that could be just as dangerous for him as activity in Phase. So maybe this was the best way. They might think him dead or impotent, since he did not reappear. Sometimes accidents and mistakes were the best course. They were at least random. The detector signaled him. He was at last drawing close to the metal and magnetism. He hoped this was what he believed it was, and if it weren't, he would have to struggle to the surface and hope he could make it to a dome. His oxygen was very low. He knew he was nowhere near the curtain. He was also deadly tired. The shortage of oxygen had sapped his strength. He doubted he could survive if this site were not what he sought. He had, in fact, gambled his life on it. The passage did not go to the site. Style had to use the disruptor again. The wall melted and he stepped through. He had entered a dusty chamber. Machinery was in it. The detector indicated that electric current flowed here. He turned up his light and examined the machinery. Immediately he suffered the pangs of disappointment. This was no computer. This was an old construction robot, equipped to bore and polish a tunnel through rock. The magnetic field was from a preservation current, to warm key lines and maintain the valuable robot brain in operative condition despite long disuse. There were other construction machines here, similarly parked and preserved. It was cheaper to mothball equipment for centuries than to rebuild it at need. Obviously the computer had been brought here, then passed through the curtain to Phase long ago. Something nagged at Styles' mind. there was a discontinuity. What was it? He felt worn in brain as well as in body, but as he concentrated, he was able to force it to the surface of consciousness. His ability to do this was one of the things that had brought him to his present position as citizen and adept. When he needed to be aware of something, he could grasp it in time for it to be of use. Usually. It was this. The curtain was not here. It was at least a full, weary day and night's march northwest of here. There was no way the computer could have been set across here. The curtain was fairly stable. If it moved, it did so very slowly. Centimeters per century, perhaps, like the drifting of continents. Still, that offered a possible explanation. Maybe the curtain had moved, perhaps in random jumps that were now forgotten, and several centuries ago it had been here. So the computer had been put across, and stranded by the retreat of the curtain. How, then, could he be fated to put the computer back across the curtain? The computer was surely far too massive for him to move, even if the other adepts permitted it, which they would not. Style was not at all sure he cared to make the effort. If the computer oracle was his enemy, why should he help it move a proton to wreak its vengeance on Phase? So much remained to be clarified before Style could decide what side of what situation he was on. First, however, he had to figure out how to survive. There should be some small emergency supplies of food and oxygen here for maintenance workers who might get stranded. There might be a storeroom, maybe even a communication line to civilization, since there was a live power line. He checked around, his mind growing dull as his scant remaining oxygen thinned. He had rationed it to reach here. Now it was gone. He stumbled from machine to machine. No oxygen, no supplies. The cave narrowed. There was a door at the end. It was an airlock type of portal, likely storeroom or pressurized office complex. He needed to get in, but it was sealed. Should he use the disruptor? Two problems there. First, the chamber might be lined with disrupt-resistant material, making it impervious to the attack of this small weapon. Second, if he did break in and there was air pressure, that pressure would decompress explosively. Not only could this be dangerous to him physically, the process would eliminate the very thing he had to preserve: normal, oxygenated air pressure. He tried to open the lock, but could not. The controls were keyed to particular identities or particular code sequences, and he was not the right person, and didn't know the code. No help for it. He would have to try the disruptor, hoping to find canned air to use with his suit. Then a voice came. "Identify yourself." There was someone in there, or at least a sapient robot. "I am..." He paused. Should he give his true identity? Caution prevailed. "A person in need of air. I beg assistance." "You shall have it. Be advised that a robot weapon is trained on you." So advised. Style leaned against the wall, growing dizzy as the last of his scuba oxygen faded. He could not blame a solitary maintenance guard for being careful. The portal hummed, then opened. Air puffed out. A figure emerged, clothed in the protective gear of a maintenance worker, using a nostril mask and protective goggles. "Style, it's you!" the figure cried. "God, what a relief!" The man put his arm around Style's shoulders to help him into the chamber. It was Clef, the musician Style had encountered in the tourney, and to whom he had given the platinum flute. The foreordained. "I thought you were in Phase," Style gasped as the airlock sealed and the pressure came up. I was, Style. Or should I say, sir? I understand you obtained citizenship. I got it. Don't bother with the sir. Just give me air and food and a place to rest. What are you doing here? The inner aperture opened, and Clef guided him into a comfortable chamber. I'm here to meet you, Style, on behalf of the Oracle. You and I must work together to fulfill the prophecy and save the frames from destruction. He pressed a cup of Nutri-Soup into Styles' unsteady hands and set him in an easy chair. I was so afraid you would not make it. The Oracle said there was danger and that no one could help you, and that it could not foresee your arrival. Its prophecies are unreliable when they relate to its own destiny. I had no notion when and if you would arrive, except that it had to be within a 3-day time span. I fear I was asleep when the moment came. Then, I could not be certain it was you, for there are enemies. Styles ceased his gulping of the soup to interrupt Clef. Enemies? To save the suit? To save the frames? I understood I was to destroy Phase, and I don't know whether that makes me friend or enemy to whom. Clef smiled. That depends on how you see it, Style. The present order will be overturned or greatly weakened in both Proton and Phase. That's why citizens and adepts oppose the move. Most of the rest, the serfs and creatures, will benefit by the new order. You were no enemy to them. Viewpoint, Style said, catching on. To an adept, the loss of power of adepts would be disaster. The end of Phase as he knows it. To a unicorn, it might be salvation. And to a werewolf, Clef agreed. Big changes are coming. It is our job to make the transition safe. If we don't, things could get extremely ugly. Style was recovering as he breathed the good air and ingested the nourishment of the soup. He started to strip off the wetsuit, all that had protected him from the chill of the cave passages. This chamber was like a slice of heaven, coming so suddenly after his arduous trek. Tell me everything. It's simple enough. 300 years ago, when they discovered that this planet was one of the occasional planets in the universe where the frames of science and of fantasy intersected. Would you believe planet Earth was another such place in medieval times? They realized that there were certain dangers in colonizing the fantasy frame. So they set up some powerful instruments for the purpose of securing an optimistic new order. A sophisticated self-willed computer, and a definitive book of magic. A book of magic? I never heard of this. Well, you weren't supposed to. It contains the most potent spells in all modes, so that it would take years for a single person to invoke them all. Not that anyone would want to. Spells of creation and destruction, of summoning and sending, of healing and harming. Any person with access to that book in Phase would become an instant adept, more powerful than any other, one who could virtually change the face of the frame in minutes. The computer contains all the data for science, finance, economics, and politics known at the time. Despite the passage of 300 years, this knowledge is enough to assure the operator enormous power in Proton, perhaps enough to dominate the government. And someone is destined to get hold of these tools and turn them to wrong use? That could indeed be trouble. No, great care was taken to safeguard against this danger. The two tools had to be preserved for the time when they were needed, and kept out of the hands of those who might squander or abuse them. They had to be ready for the great crisis of separation. Separation? It seems the intersection of frames is a sometime thing. The elves who instructed me are not sure about that. As you know, they consider me to be the one they call the foreordained, which simply means my particular talent will be useful in negotiating the crisis. There is nothing religious or supernatural about it. So they have been preparing me in a cram course, while you have diverted the adepts who might otherwise have interfered. So that's what I was doing. I was a decoy. That's only part of your task. Anyway, they think the frames are going to separate, so there will be no more crossings, no further interactions. This is simply part of the natural order. It happened on Earth as the medieval period ended. After it, no one in Proton need believe in magic, and no one in Phase need believe in science, and the episode of the interaction of the systems will seem like fake history. Since on this planet the fantasy frame was colonized from the science frame, though a number of phase creatures are evidently native to the fantasy realm, and perhaps a little folk too. Where was I? The frames are separating, Style said. Ah, yes. When they do, the human alternate selves will be carried away, becoming complete in themselves, clones of their counterpart, and parallelism will no longer exist. Now that's another thing, Style said. I can see how the presence of people in one frame could generate similar people in the other frame, split by the curtain. With science overlapping magic, that sort of thing can happen. But after the initial ripple, why should it continue? I did not exist 300 years ago. Why should there have been two of me? Again, the little folk aren't certain. It seems that when the experts made the computer and book of magic, two aspects of the same thing, they were able to juxtapose the frames. Science and magic operated in each, for the two were the same. Then the frames separated slightly, and each person and creature separated too. This was an unexpected occurrence. Before that, there had been only one of each. It was as if the fantasy frame, vacant of human life, picked up a duplicate copy of each person in the science frame. It did not work the other way, for no dragons or unicorns appeared in Proton, perhaps because it lacked a compatible environment. Already the mining of protonite was commencing, with attendant use of heavy machinery, construction of processing plants, and pollution of the environment. The citizen class put things on what they termed a business-like footing at the outset, permitting no pollution controls. There is evidence that magical creatures are extremely sensitive to environmental degradation. Only a few, like the trolls, can endure it any length of time. The citizens of Proton simply put up force field domes and continued their course unabated, ignoring the outside planet. In this manner, Proton lost whatever it might have had in nature, sacrificed by the illiterate pursuit of wealth. But despite this gross difference between the frames, parallelism persisted. People tended to align. In fact, parallelism is the major factor in the present crisis. That's what I really want to understand, Style said. The frames may separate, but I don't see why that should destroy them unless, like Siamese twins, they can't exist apart. They can exist apart. To make the problem clear, I have to clarify parallelism. It's not just people. The entire landscape is similar. A change made in one frame and not in the other creates an imbalance and puts a strain on the entire framework. Dig a hole in the ground in Proton, and the stress won't be alleviated until a similar hole is made in Phase. Unfortunately, there is no natural way to do that, so the stress continues to build. Eventually, something will snap, and we are very close to the snapping point. Ah, I see. Like damming a stream. The water builds up behind and falls away on the other side, until it either spills over or breaks the dam. and we don't want the dam to burst. Indeed, we don't. So we have to find a way to alleviate the pressure. We don't know what will happen if the frames equalize in their own fashion, but it would probably wipe out most of the inhabitants of both frames. So we need to fill holes and drain waters, Style said. Seems simple enough. Not so. Not so at all. You reckon without the human dynamics. You see, the major imbalance, the largest hole in the ground, literally, is from the mining of protonite. This is displacing huge quantities of material, creating a substantial physical imbalance. And worse yet, protonite, Style said. In the other frame, it's phasite, the source of the energy for magic. Exactly. That makes the problem critical, and the solution almost prohibitively difficult. The citizens are not about to stop mining protonite voluntarily. Not until every last dreg of it is gone, like the original atmosphere. Protonite is the basis of their wealth and power. If it were only sand, we could arrange to transfer a few thousand tons from one frame to the other, relieving the imbalance. But as it is... But if that much protonite, phasite, were transferred out to restore the balance, what would happen to the magic? It would be reduced to about half its present potency. The Oracle has calculated this carefully. The power of the Adepts, who are the main users, would diminish accordingly. They would not be able to dominate phase as they do now. That might not be a bad thing, Style said. And the Proton citizens? Their mining would have to be severely curtailed, perhaps cease entirely. They would have no renewal of their present resources. The galaxy would have to discover new sources of energy. But the galaxy depends on protonite. Nothing matches it. There would be phenomenal repercussions. Yes, that is why taking action is difficult. Civilization as we know it will have to change, and that will not occur easily. Yet the alternative, the Oracle says, may be the complete destruction of this planet, which would also cut off the galaxy's supply of protonite. I begin to comprehend the forces operating, Style said. The end of phase and proton is approaching, and we have to do something. But both citizens and adepts would oppose the cutoff of protonite mining and the transfer of phasite, because without free use of this mineral, their status suffers greatly. That's why the adepts are after me now, and think that my elimination will alleviate their problem. They fear I can do something that will deplete them all. You can. And that's why the self-willed machines knew I would have to become the wealthiest of citizens. Wealth is power in Proton, and I need to be able to withstand the formidable opposition of the citizens when this thing breaks. Exactly. You need enough of a voting bloc to tip the balance in your favor. So many things were falling into place. But why, then, did the computer try to destroy me? I don't want to see either proton or phase come to harm, and I should certainly work to achieve the best compromise. Why did the Oracle stick the Red Adept on me? Because only you, and I, can do the job that must be done. A man who can cross the curtain freely, who is powerful in each frame, and who has the ability and conscience to carry through. A man who is essentially incorruptible without being stupid. The Blue Adept, your other self, was too limited. He could not cross the curtain, so he had no base in Proton, no experience with that society. He had lived all his life with magic. He depended on it. He would have been largely helpless in Proton during the crisis. So the Oracle killed him? Style demanded incredulously. Just because he wasn't perfect? Why didn't the Oracle select someone else for the job? The Oracle selected you, Style. You had his excellent qualities, and you had lived a more challenging life. You were better equipped. But you could not enter phase, so the Blue Adept had to be eliminated. I do not speak of this with approval. In order to free you to cross the curtain. Had the decision gone the other way, you would have been the one killed to free him to cross into Proton. But the attempt was made on me too, Style protested, shaken by this cold calculation. It was blocked in Proton, Clef said. I knew nothing of this when I encountered you in the tourney. Believe me, I was appalled. But you were protected. The Oracle sent a second message. The message! Style exclaimed. I was trying to trace it. The Oracle! But this, too, was coming clear now. One message to start the murder process, the other to intercept and nullify part of it. Diabolically efficient. Now you have been prepared, Clef continued. The computer expects you to organize the juxtaposition and transfer. I'm not at all sure I want to cooperate with this emotionless machine. It has entirely disrupted my life, not stopping even at murder. Would it put the Lady Blue through? And my friend Hulk? Styles shook his head. This is not the sort of thing I care to tolerate. I agree, but it seems the alternative is to let both frames crash. Or so the cynical Oracle says, Styles said. That machine has shown itself to be completely unscrupulous in the manipulation of people and events. Why should I believe it now? The little folk believe it, Clef said. They despise it and want to be rid of it, but they believe it. It is a machine programmed for truth, not for conscience. So its methods are ruthless, but never has it lied. Its sole purpose is to negotiate the crisis with minimum havoc, and it seems that the grief inflicted on you was merely part of the most rational strategy. It has no human will to power, and once it returns to Proton, it will serve its master absolutely. And who will its master be? You, I think. I am called the Foreordained, but I believe the term is most applicable to you. Perhaps it was applied to me as a decoy, to prevent your premature destruction. He smiled, appreciating the irony. The Oracle prophesies that Blue will govern Proton in the difficult period following separation of the frames. As you may have gathered, there is no limit on information when it deals with me. The computer will help you govern Proton, and the Book of Magic will assist the one who takes power from the Adepts in phase. And who is that? I can't get a clear answer there. It seems to be you. But of course, you can't be in both frames after they separate. I suspect the computer suffered a prophetic short circuit here. I can only conjecture that whichever frame you choose to remain in will be yours to govern. I want only to remain in phase with the Lady Blue and Nasa and Curlgeyer and my other friends. Yet I have already been treated to the prophecy that phase will not be safe until Blue departs it. Clef shook his head. I wish I could give you a clear answer on this, Style, but I cannot. Your future is indistinct, perhaps undecided. It may be because you are the key figure, the one who will decide it. The uncertainty principle. He shrugged. Unwillingly, Style had to concede the probable truth of this complex of difficult notions. Machines acted the way they were designed and programmed to act. And why would the experts of 300 years ago have designed a machine to lie during the crisis? Surely they would not have. The very ruthlessness that Style hated was an argument in favor of the Oracle's legitimacy. Where is this Book of Magic? Style asked at last. It was his grudging, oblique concession that he would have to go along with the Oracle and perform his part in the adjustment of frames. In Proton, under the control of the game computer. What's it doing in Proton? No one can use it there. That is why it is in Proton. To protect the two tools of power from premature exploitation and dissipation. The powers that were place them in the wrong frames. The Book of Magic is impotent in the science frame, and the computer is greatly reduced in power in the fantasy frame. In order to resolve the crisis, both must be restored to their proper frames. So my job is to fetch the book and pass the computer back through? These tasks are not simple ones, Clef cautioned him. Style, of course, had already gathered that. The book should not be no problem in the acquisition, for the game computer will turn it over to anyone possessing the code request. But the citizens will do their utmost to stop it from being transported across the curtain. The computer, that relates to my job. It will cross only as the moving curtain intersects this location. Your job? Exactly what will you do as the foreordained? I will juxtapose the frames. That is the precondition for reestablishing parallelism. Style shook his head. Just when I thought I had it straight, I'm confused again. It is my limited present understanding that the frames are about to separate, but can't because of the imbalance of protonite. I suppose their separation would tear that associated phasite free and rupture our whole reality, like a knot pulled through a needle hole. But we have only to form a ball of phasite and roll it across the curtain, where it will become the necessary protonite. What's this business about juxtaposition? Nice notion, that ball. But you don't just roll phasite across the curtain. Phasite is magic. The curtain is really an effect of that magic, like a magnetic field associated with electric current or the splay of colors made by a prism in sunlight. Such a ball might rend the curtain, causing explosive mergence of the frames. Ah, the dam bursting again. Precisely. But you could roll it into the region of juxtaposition, and then on into the other frame. 2 steps, letting one aspect of the curtain recover before straining the other. Like an airlock, perhaps. He smiled. What a fortune a multi-ton ball of protonite would be worth. So, you juxtapose the frames. You are foreordained to perform this task so that I can perform mine. How do you do this? I play the flute. Music does it? Style asked skeptically. The platinum flute is more than a musical instrument, as you know. It produces fundamental harmonics that affect the impingement of the frames. Properly played, it causes the frames to overlap. The little folk have been teaching me to play the ultimate music, which ranges within a single note on the audible level, and across the universe on a level we cannot perceive. I have had to learn more about music than I learned in all my prior life for this single performance. Now, I have mastered the note. The effect will be small at first. Toward the culmination, it will become dramatic. There will be perhaps 2 hours of full juxtaposition in the central zone, during which period the exchange of power Earth must be affected. If it is not, probably disaster, Style finished. Yet if that is the case, why should the citizens and adepts oppose it? Of course they will lose power, but when the alternative is to lose the entire planet? They choose to believe that the threat is exaggerated. To return to the dam analogy. Some, when the dam is about to burst, will dislike the inconvenience of lowering the water level, so will claim there is no danger. Perhaps the sluices will pass water across their properties, damaging them only slightly as the level is lowered. So they indulge in denial, refusing to perceive the larger threat, and oppose corrective action with all their power. To us, this may seem short-sighted, but few people view with equanimity the prospect of imposed sacrifice. And there is a chance the Oracle is wrong, Style said. Or am I indulging in foolish denial? Wrong perhaps in timing, not in essence. No one can predict the moment the dam will burst, but the end is inevitable. You do make a convincing case, Style said ruefully. When will you begin playing to juxtapose the frames? As soon as I return to phase, after garnering your agreement to manage the transfer of computer, book of magic, and phasite. Damn it! This computer murdered my other self and caused untold mischief in the personal lives of people involved with me. Why should I cooperate with it now, or believe anything it says? Clef shrugged. You are a realist. You are ready to undertake personal sacrifice for the greater good, as was your alternate self, the Blue Adept. He knew this? Style demanded, remembering how the man had apparently acquiesced to his own murder. Yes, he was too powerful and clever to be killed without his consent. He gave up everything to make it possible for you to save the frames. Style hated the notion, yet he had to believe. And if the Blue Adept, with everything to live for, had made his sacrifice, how could Style, who was the same person, do less? He would only be destroying what his other self had died to save. It seems I must do it, Style said, dismayed. I do not feel like any hero, though. How long before juxtaposition is actually achieved? Allowing time for me to return to phase? Perhaps 24 hours. Time was getting short. How much phasite? Precisely. The little folk will have that information. In fact, they will have the phasite ready for you. But the enemy forces will do all in their power to prevent you from moving it. So I'll need to transfer the book of magic and the computer first, Style decided. Then I can use them to facilitate the mineral transfer. Since the computer will cross when the curtain passes its location, I need only to guard it and establish a line to it, which leaves the book, which I'd better pick up before juxtaposition so I have time to assimilate it. Maybe I can arrange to have someone else pick it up for me, since I will no doubt be watched. I believe so. Is there convenient and private transport from here to a dome? Share mine. I am going to the curtain. From phase, you may travel freely. If the adepts don't catch me. It will help, I must admit, if you can distract their attention from me again. With the flute I can protect myself, but I would prefer to be unobserved. I suppose so. Somehow I had pictured you as a new super adept, able to crumble mountains and guide the dead to heaven. I have only the powers of the platinum flute you brought me. I am myself no more than a fine musician. I suspect that any other musician of my caliber could have served this office of the foreordained. I just happen to be the nearest available. After this is over, I hope to return to my profession in my home frame, profiting from the experience garnered here. The moundfolk of the Platinum Domain are generously allowing me to keep the flute. I was, like you, drafted for this duty. I am not temperamentally suited to the exercise of such power. I am not an adept. Style found that obscurely reassuring. Clef believed that this would come out all right. Very well. Well, we'll step across the curtain, and I'll spell you directly to the Oracle, where they can't get at you, then spell myself elsewhere in a hurry. Style paused, thinking of a minor aspect. How did you get by the goblins who guard the computer? One note of the flute paralyzes them, Clef said, relaxing. You summon your power through music. You should understand. I do. Style hated to leave this comfortable chair, but felt he should get moving. I suppose we've dawdled enough. Great events await us with gaping jaws. I believe we can afford to wait the night, Clef said. There is a tube shuttle, renovated for transport to the curtain. It will whisk us there in the morning. Since no one knows you're here, you can relax. That will give the adepts time to gather confidence that you are dead, putting them off guard. The notion appealed tremendously. Style had worn himself out by his trek through the caves and tunnels. He desperately needed time to recuperate. He trusted Clef. Then give me a piece of floor to lie on, and I'll pass out. Allow me to delay you slightly longer, since we may not meet again, Clef said. We played a duet together once. It was one of the high points of my life. Here, there is no magic, so the instruments can safely be used. Style liked this notion even better than sleep. It seemed to him that music was more restorative than rest. He brought out his treasured harmonica. Clef produced the platinum flute. He looked at it a moment, almost sadly. Cyril Ryan, he murmured, the werebitch. With this I piped her soul to heaven, and for that I am grateful. I knew her only briefly, but in that time I had no better friend in Faze. This is the way it is with me and Nasa, the unicorn, Style agreed. Animals are special in Faze. Extremely special. Clef put the instrument to his mouth, and from it came the loveliest note Style could imagine. Style played the harmonica, making an impromptu harmony. He knew himself to be a fine player, especially with this instrument inherited from his other self. But Clef was the finest player, with the finest instrument ever made. The extemporaneous melody they formed was absolutely beautiful. Style felt his fatigue ameliorating and his spirit strengthening. He knew of many types of gratification, such as of hunger, sex, and acclaim. But this was surely the finest of them all, the sheer joy of music. They played for some time, both men transported by the rapture of the form. Style doubted he would ever experience a higher pleasure than this, and he knew Clef felt the same. Flute and harmonica might seem like an odd combination, but here it was perfection. Then something strange occurred. Style began to see the music, not in the form of written notes, but as a force, a wash of awareness encompassing their immediate environment. It was a shape or essence of a spirit, a soul. Somehow this vibrant, joyous thing was familiar. Style glanced at Clef without interrupting his playing. The flutist had seen it too. He nodded marginally. Then Clef's playing changed in nature, and Style realized that this was the music that moved souls to their resting places. Somehow the magic of the flute was acting in this frame, moving the spirit in the room. Whose was it? Not the werebitch's. It hovered in place, becoming more perceptible. Then the music changed again, and the spirit disappeared. Clef abruptly stopped playing, so Style had to stop too. Did you recognize it? The man asked, awed. No, Style said. It seemed familiar, but I never saw such a phenomenon in Proton. It was you, Style. Your soul came out. When I realized that, I stopped. I don't want to pipe you to heaven yet. Not mine, Style protested. My soul was never more with me. Clef frowned. I beg to differ. The little folk have instructed me somewhat in this, as it is an important property of the flute. There are certain keys to the recognition of souls that the music relates to. The more I attuned to you, the clearer that ghost became. It was you. Styles shook his head. It had to have been my double, not me. There was a brief silence. You had a double, Clef said. Your alternate self, who died to free you. The Blue Adept, Style agreed, awed at the dawning notion. Who piped him to heaven? No one. He was murdered alone. All that remains of him is this harmonica. The flute evokes souls, but only free souls, which have not yet found their way to their destinations. Could your alternate's soul be in this instrument? Style finished. You know, he may have found a way to stay around, not dying completely. This harmonica came to me fortuitously. Is it possible that he chose to occupy the instrument when he made room for you and Faze? Clef continued. Style contemplated the harmonica. Why? Why avoid heaven and be trapped in a harmonica? Clef shrugged. The music that issues from it is lovely. Is it better than your norm? Yes, I play this better than other instruments, though I did not play this type until I got this one. Perhaps, then, your other self is helping you. Again, Style considered. To make sure his sacrifice is not wasted, subtly guiding me. He conjured his own soul into his harmonica. Surely a feat of magic no lesser person could achieve. He has been with me all along. Style sighed, half in amazement. Now I must fulfill the destiny he could not. He is watching me. He must have been a worthy man. He must have been, Style agreed. The Lady Blue said he had not lived up to his potential. Now it seems there was more to him than she knew. They let the matter drop. There was really not much else to say about it. Clef showed Style to a cot, and he lay down and slept, reassured, literally in spirit. In the morning, refreshed, they took the private shuttle east to the Curtain. This was not in the region Style had crossed it before, in the chasm. The Curtain meandered all over the planet, as he and the Lady Blue had verified on their horrendous honeymoon. This was where it traveled almost due north-south, passing a few miles east of the Palace of the Oracle. Style and the lady had ridden rapidly north along this stretch on their way to their rendezvous with the snow demons. That had been the keyword flame in his poem. Now the keyword was civil, for he was about to launch a civil war, as Adept fought Unicorn and Citizen fought Serf. Still, to come were the words flute and earth. He could readily see how the first related, but the last remained obscure. Those key terms, Style exclaimed. I was given a dozen words to fashion into a poem in the finals of the tourney. Where did those words originate? With the Oracle, of course. You had to be provided some hint of your destiny. That's what I suspected. The Oracle had been meddling in his life throughout, guiding or hurting him in the prescribed direction. Yet, could he condemn it? The future of the two frames was certainly an overwhelming consideration, and the Oracle's present avenues of expression were extremely limited. There had been rewards along the way. Style had been given citizenship in Proton, and a worthy ally in the Lady Robot Sheen. He had been given the Lady Blue in Faze, and such close friends as Nasa the Unicorn and Kurlgeir the Werewolf. He had seen his life transformed from the routine of serfdom to the wildest adventure. And despite its hazards, he found he liked adventure. He also liked magic. When this was all over, and he had helped save or destroy Fays, depending on viewpoint, he wanted to retire in Fays. But there was one other prophecy. Is it true that Fays will not be secure until the Blue Adept departs the frame forever? Clef was sober. I fear it is true, Style. Possession of the Book of Magic alone will make you dangerous. You will have great power in the New Order anyway, and the book will make it so much greater that corruption is a distinct possibility. That book in any hands in Fays is a long-term liability, after the crisis has been navigated. The Oracle takes no pleasure in such news. Of course, it is a machine without feelings anyway, but must report what it sees. Style loved the Lady Blue, but he also loved Faze. She loved Faze too. He did not want to take her from it. In the other frame there was Sheen, who loved him and whom he was slated to marry there. He did not quite love her, yet it seemed his course had been charted. He closed his eyes, suffering in anticipation of his enormous loss. His alternate self had yielded his life for the good of Faze. Now it seemed Style would have to yield his happiness for the same objective. He would have to leave Faze, once the crisis had passed, and take the book with him back to Proton. Clef looked at him, understanding his agony. Scant comfort, I know, but I believe the Oracle selected you for this mission because you alone possessed the position, skills, and integrity to accomplish it. No other person would have made the sacrifice you will, that your alternate already has made, guided solely by honor. Your fitness for the office has been proved. Scant comfort, Style agreed bitterly. There is one additional prophecy I must relay to you immediately before we part, Clef said. You must marshal your troops. Troops? How can they juxtapose the frames? Clef smiled. The Oracle prophesies the need for organized force, if Faze is to be saved. And I am to organize this force? For what specific purpose? That has not yet been announced. Well, who exactly is the enemy? The adepts and citizens and their cohorts. Common folk can't fight adepts and citizens. Not folk. Creatures. Ah, the unicorns, werewolves, vampires, animal heads, elves, giants, dragons? They are destined to join the enemy, along with the goblins. I begin to fathom the nature of the battle. Half the animal heads will die, and many others, but the alternative is total destruction, Style sighed. I do not see myself as a captain of battle. That is, nevertheless, your destiny. I am foreordained to juxtapose the frames, you to equalize them. Without you, my task is useless. These canny riddles by the Oracle are losing their appeal. If this is not simply a matter of picking up a book of magic and moving some phasite the little folk will give me, I would appreciate some rather more detailed information on how I am to use these troops to accomplish my assignment. I don't believe in violence for the sake of violence. Clef spread his hands. Nor do I. But the prophecy tells only what, not how. Perhaps the elven folk will have more useful news for you. Perhaps. But won't the enemy adepts be watching for me to go to the elven domain? Surely so. So I should avoid whatever traps they have laid for me there, for my sake, and the elves' sake. I can't visit the little folk at this time, And I suspect I should also stay clear of the unicorns and werewolves. So it will be very difficult for me to organize an army among creatures who know me only slightly, especially when I can't give them any concrete instructions. I do not envy your position. I am secure. The Oracle is virtually immune from direct molestation, but you must perform under fire, with inadequate resources. Presumably your game expertise qualifies you. As I said, the Oracle went to some trouble to secure the right man for this exceedingly awkward position. Indeed, Style agreed, unpleased. Now they reached the curtain. Style doubted the Adepts would be lurking for him here. How could they know his devious route? But they would soon spot it when he started magic. He would have to move fast, before they oriented and countered. Style plotted his course and spells as they got out of the capsule and walked up a ramp to the surface. There was an airlock there. The curtain is a few meters distant. Best to hold your breath a few seconds, Clef said. You have certainly mastered the intricacies in a short time. The little folk are excellent instructors. They don't like folk my size, but they do their job well. I will be sorry to depart Phase. Not nearly as sorry as Style would be. I will make my spells rapidly the moment we cross, Style said. The flute prevents magic from being blocked, so the enemy cannot interfere, but it may resist a spell by a person not holding it. Have no concern. I could block your magic by a single note, but don't have to. I trust you to get me to the Oracle in good order. Style paused in the airlock. We may not meet again, but we shall be working together. He proffered his hand. Surely we shall meet, Clef said warmly, taking the hand, forgetting his own prior doubt on this score. Then they opened the airlock, held their breath, and charged out to intersect the faintly scintillating curtain ahead. The airlock door swung closed automatically behind them. It was camouflaged to resemble an outcropping of rock. Style had passed it during his honeymoon without ever noticing. They stepped through together. The bleak, barren desert became lush wilderness. Style played a few bars on the harmonica, summoning his magic. Now he was conscious of the spirit of his other self within the instrument, facilitating his performance. No doubt he had been able to practice magic much more readily and effectively because of this help than would otherwise have been possible. Adepts be deaf, computer get clef, Style sang. He was trying to conceal his magic from the awareness of the enemy. He wasn't sure that aspect would work. Clef vanished. Style played some more, restoring the expended potency of the magic. This time he was conscious of its source, phasite, with an ambiance of magic like a magnetic field. The music intensified and focused this on Style, as a magnifying glass might do with a beam of sunshine. The transfer of phasite to proton frame would diminish this ambiance, robbing his spells of half their potency. Still, phase would be a magic realm, and of course he would probably leave it, so as to make it safe. Conduct me whole to the East Pole, he sang. He splashed in water. Naturally, that was why this region was not a tourist attraction. The water was foul, too. The universal proton pollution was slopping through. All the more reason for tourists to stay clear. Style trod water and played his music again. Set it up solo, a floating hollow. A buoyed holographic transceiver appeared. Style had really strained to get the concept detail on this one. This was to be his contact station, so that he could stay in touch with the two frames from either side. Because it was at the deserted, unpleasant East Pole, it should be secure for some time from the depredations of other adepts or citizens. He was sure that by this time the enemy adepts had booby-trapped his fixture at the West Pole and would not expect this alternate ploy. Satisfied, Style played more music. Take me down to see Brown. He arrived at the wooden castle of the Brown Adept, feeling nauseous. Self-transport never was comfortable, and he had done it twice rapidly. In a moment, the pretty brown-haired, brown-eyed child dashed up to him. "Oh, Blue," she cried, "I was so afraid they had hurt thee." Styles smiled wanly. "I had the same fear for thee. Thou alone didst side with me, of all the adepts." She scowled cutely. "Well, they did tie me up with a magic rope or something. I was going to get a golem to set me loose, but then Yellow came and let me go. She's really pretty in her potion costume. She said all the others were after thee, and she really didn't like it, but couldn't go against her own kind. Is that what I'm doing?" "Thou art helping save Faze from disaster," he assured her. "Oh, goody!" she exclaimed, clapping her hands. Style had a second thought about using Brown as an ally. Could a child have proper responsibility? Yet he didn't seem to have much choice. She had at least had the courage to oppose the other adepts, which was more than Yellow had had. "I need thy help in an important capacity," he said. "There may be hard work and even danger." "If Faze is in trouble, I'm already in danger," she said brightly. "Aye. The other adepts prefer to risk disaster later for the sake of power now. I must do something that will make magic less effective, but will save Faze for future centuries. Then must I leave Faze." "Leave Faze?" she exclaimed, horrified. "I was only just getting to know thee." "I do not wish to leave, but a prophecy of the Oracle suggests Faze will not be safe until I do. I love Faze too much to hurt it by remaining." A soulful tear rolled down her cheek. "Oh, Blue, I like this not." "I fear the Lady Blue will like it even less," Style said, choking somewhat himself. "Neither will my friend Nasa the Unicorn. But what must be, must be. Now must I cross the curtain before the other adepts spot me. They tried to trap me in the Goblin's Demesne, and now that I escaped, they will be attacking me anywhere they find me. In any event, there is something I must fetch in Proton Frame, so must I ask thee to be my coordinator in Phase." Her young brow furrowed. "What is this?" "The creatures of Phase must be warned. They must be told that the Oracle predicts disaster if certain things be not done, and that the Blue Adept is trying to do these things and may need their help. That the other adepts are trying to prevent this program from being implemented and may attack any creature who help me. Canst thou go to the creatures and tell them?" "Oh, sure. I can send my golems, she said. "If they are not stopped by magic, they will speak their message." "Excellent. I have set up a spell to keep thee in touch, so that thou canst check with me across the curtain. When I have what I need, I will return." "I hope thy business there takes not long. This frightens me, Blue." "It frightens me too, but I think we can get through." Style played his harmonica, then sang, "Create a crystal ball for Brown Adept to call." The ball appeared. Style presented it to her. "Speak to this when thou must reach me. I will answer if I can." She smiled, her spirit rebounding quickly at the prospect of this new toy. "That should be fun." "Now must I go," Style said. He sang a routine spell to take him to a little-used section of the curtain, then stepped across into a maintenance hall in Proton. Soon he was in touch with Sheen and riding with her in a private citizen capsule. "What is the present state of my fortune?" he inquired. "Melon has manipulated it into about 60 kilograms. 60 kilos of protonite? Already he's doubled it?" "He's one of my friends," she reminded him. That meant Mellon had access to information not generally available to others, including citizens, such as what supposedly random numbers might be generated by the game computer. That would, of course, be an enormous advantage. Style did not like all the implications, but decided not to inquire about the details. However, she said, several things are disturbing the citizens and making mischief for you. It may be difficult in the next few hours. It may indeed, he agreed. The countdown for the juxtaposition of frames has commenced. I've already set most of the other adepts against me, and soon the same will happen with most of the citizens. Yes. First, there is the matter of your rapid increase in fortune. They are concerned where it will stop, understandably. Second, they don't like your designating me as your heir. The panel approved it, but now many more citizens are becoming aware of it. A robot with such a fortune would be awkward. Third, there is a rumor you mean to destroy the Society of Proton. That notion is not at all popular. I should think not, Style agreed. As it happens, they are not far wrong. Will you update me briefly? I fear things will complicate rapidly now that you have reappeared, and I lack the living capacity to adapt to total changed situations. Some citizens even expressed hope you were dead, and in that hope, their action was held in abeyance. So, now they may seek to render me dead, Style thought. I thought citizenship would alleviate my problems somewhat, but they have only intensified. Very well. You get me to the game computer, and I'll fill you in. What do you need with the game computer? It has the book of magic that will make me instantly more powerful than any person in phase has ever been. I'll need it to protect myself from the massed power of all the other adepts, and to facilitate the transfer of phasite across the curtain. Here it will be protonite, with scientific energy instead of magical energy. Then the frames will separate forever, and the curtain will be gone. She was quick to catch on. Which world will you be in then, Style? Style sighed. You know I want to be in phase, with the Lady Blue. But I am of Proton, and there is a prophecy that tells me to get clear of phase. So I will be here. He thought she would be pleased, but she was not. The Lady Blue is to be widowed again? She asked sharply. I could bring her here to Proton, but she is of phase. I fear it would destroy her to leave it forever. I don't think she would come here anyway, because here I am to marry you. So, it is my fault you have to widow her? How had he gotten into this? It is the fault of fate. I simply am not destined to be happy after my job is done. Then he bit his tongue. What an insult he had given Sheen. I will put in for reprogramming so she can come here. You do not need to marry me. Style refused to take the bait. It was surely poisoned. Sheen might be less complicated than a living woman, but she did have depths. I will marry you. It is the way it has to be. Have you informed the Lady Blue of this? She inquired coldly. Not yet? There was a dreadful task. They were silent for a while. Style felt the weight of the harmonica in his pocket and brought it out for contemplation. I wish you could come out, he said to it. Sheen looked at him questioningly. My other self's soul is in this instrument, Style explained. Clef's flute evoked it. Apparently, the original Blue Adept conjured his spirit into his favorite possession. It helped me play the harmonica beyond my natural ability, and maybe won me a round of the tourney. So he helped me, But I can't help him. He's dead. This soul, you saw it in phase? No, in proton. But there's no magic in proton. Style nodded thoughtfully. I'm getting so used to magic, I'm forgetting where I am. That platinum flute can't evoke spirits in proton, yet I swear it did. We thought maybe some magic leaked through, but that couldn't really happen. Unless this imbalance you talk of is getting worse. The fabric is starting to tear. That could be. The flute did reach across to shake the mountains of proton, and perhaps also to give me the dream vision of Clef's journey to the little folk. Juxtaposition of one kind or another is occurring. The boundaries are fogging, which is why action is required now. I wish there was some way to restore my other self to life. Then he could go back to phase, his job done. Why not? All he needs is a body. Like that of a robot or android? They can't function in phase. Perhaps a magic body then, one that resembles you, with his soul in it. Ridiculous! You assume that such things can be assembled like the parts of a robot. But Style wondered, what was a person, other than a body with a soul? If I had a soul, I'd be real, Sheen said wistfully. Style had given up arguing that case. The brown adept animates golems, but they're made of wood. Robots are made of metal and plastic. Androids are living flesh, but imperfect. They are stupid and often clumsy. If it were possible to fashion a golem made of flesh, with a mind like yours and a human spirit, wouldn't that be a person? Of course it would, she said. Style decided. Have your friends look into the matter. It's a far shot, but if there were any way to restore my other self to some semblance of life, I owe him that. If he died to save phase, it is right that he be restored to it. If you have any female souls floating around looking for a host, send one to me. Style took her hand. Her fingers were as soft and warm as those of any living person. I regard the soul as the essence of self. If you hosted someone else's soul, you would become that person. I prefer you as you are. But you can't love me as I am. I can't love anyone other than the Lady Blue. When this business is done, I will accord to you whatever emotion I am capable of feeling for any woman, flesh or metal. You deserve better than this, I know. Half love is better than none, she said. And if you restore your other self in phase, will he love the Lady Blue? He's her husband, Style exclaimed. Of course he loves her. Then why did he give her up to you? To save phase. It was an act of supreme sacrifice. I am a machine. I don't appreciate the delicate nuances of human conscience and passion as a human being can. To me, it seems more likely that he found himself in an untenable situation, as do you with me, and simply opted out. That's an appalling notion, but it also carried an insidious conviction. Suppose the Blue Adept, aware of the approaching crisis, knowing he had to make way for another, and perhaps no longer in love with his wife. I wish I could meet your other self, Sheen said. You were a creature of science. He of magic, Style said. Such meetings are difficult, even when both parties are alive. You're stuck with me. She smiled, letting it go. And we do have more serious business than such idle conjecturing. She put the holo on receive, and a call was waiting. It was from Citizen Merle. Ah, so you're back, Style. Let me show you me in surf guise. Private line, please. Merle, I'm with Sheen. She knows that, Sheen said, setting up the non-intercept coding. Merle stripped away her clothing with elegant motions. She had an excellent body. Style, beware, she murmured. There are plots afoot to slay you. Style was startled by the contrast between her actions and her words. I thought you had seduction in mind, Merle. I do. I can't seduce you if you're dead, however. There was that. Merle, I don't want to deceive you. I'm not interested in... I understand you have business with the game computer. How much did she know? Do you intend to blackmail me? By no means. You happen to be unblackmailable. But I might help you if you caused me to be amenable. If I were amenable to your design, Merle, my fiancée here might get difficult. I suspect she would rather have you alive, well, and victorious. You see, some citizens have the notion that you represent a threat to their welfare, so they have instituted a push to have your citizenship revoked. Revoked? Is that possible? Style felt his underpinnings loosening. He had assumed his citizenship was irrevocable. Anything is possible. By a majority vote of the kilos attending the evening business meeting, you will be on tonight's agenda. You will need whatever help you can get. Style glanced at Sheen. This is news to you? I knew something was developing, sir, but not that it had progressed to this extent. Citizens have avenues of communication not available to machines, Merle said. I assure you the threat is genuine, and the vote may well go against you. Citizens, unfortunately, have very narrow definitions of self-interest. She smiled, turning her now naked body suggestively. She had an excellent talent for display. I will encourage my associates to support you, if you come to me. This could shift the balance. It is little enough, I ask. Are you quite sure you can't be tempted? Sheen, meanwhile, had been busy on another private line. Now she glanced up. It is true, sir, she said. My friends verify that in the past hour, a general disquiet has formed into a pattern of opposition. The moment news flashed that you had reappeared in Proton, momentum gathered. The projected vote is marginally against you. Merle's support could save you. Listen to her, Style, Merle said. The scales are finely balanced at the moment, but the full thrust of your opposition has not yet manifested. Sheen has more writing on this than her own possible citizenship. If your citizenship is revoked, your tenure will end, and you will have to leave Proton. The prospect for her friends would decline drastically, perhaps fatally, incongruous as the term may be in that application. How much do you know, Merle? Style asked tightly. Style, I research what intrigues me. I have learned much about you in the past few hours. This enhances my respect for you. It is a thing of mine to take a piece of those I respect. This is a harmless foible, and I always give fair return. Come to me, and I will help you. She had him in a difficult spot. If she knew about the self-willed machines, and possibly about Styles' mission to restore parallelism in the separating frames, she could certainly cause him much mischief. Sir, I think you should go to her, Sheen said. Style found himself athwart a dilemma. He had told Mellon to arrange a private bet to the limit of his available finances that he would not be seduced by Merle. He did not care to lose that bet, for such a loss would wipe him out. But if her support was all that guaranteed his continuing citizenship, he could lose everything, despite winning the bet. He was between Scylla and Shardibus, the devil in the deep sea, the rock and the hard place. I am frankly surprised you not heed your metal fiancée, Merle said. She does seem to know what's best for you. Styles' flash of rage was stifled by Sheen's imploring look. He decided to meet with Merle and try to explain. Maybe he could win through. Give me your address. She gave the code, and Sheen changed course. The Book of Magic would have to wait a little. There was another call. This one was for Sheen, from Melon. We have a delivery for you, he said. Cosmetics for our employer. I don't need, Styles started to protest, but he was cut off by a glance from the serf. Thank you, Sheen said. I'll pick them up at the nearest delivery tube when we leave the capsule. She gave him Merle's code, and the connection broke. Do I look that haggard? Style asked plaintively. I had a good night's rest. Melon is not concerned about your appearance. Obviously, something is afoot. Maybe the lady citizen has placed an order for an intoxicating or sexually compelling drug, and this is the counteragent. Maybe, Style agreed morosely. Sheen, Merle is pretty enough in her rejuvenated state, and I'm sure she has a good mind and lots of experience. But I'm simply not interested in the sort of liaison she desires. How do I get out of this one without imperiling my citizenship? What you are interested in is not very important, she said. Merle does not want any romance. She merely wants an act of sex to add to her collection. The practical thing is for you to give it to her. And lose my bet, Style said. She looked startled. Oh my! I'm starting to think like a person. I forgot all about that. Of course you can't oblige her. She seemed relieved. If I oblige anyone in that way, it will be you. Any time. After we're decently married. It's not a decent marriage. The capsule arrived, sparing him further comment. They got out at a small private terminal. From here there was access to 3 small domes, one of which was Merle's. Sheen went to the delivery chute and punched the coding for Melon's package. A small vial fell into her hand. Her brow furrowed as she brought the item back. This is no cosmetic, sir. It's... She broke off. Let's move quickly, sir. Suddenly, gas hissed into the room from barred vents. Sheen launched herself at the entrance to Merle's dome. It was locked closed. I don't have the facility to analyze this gas, she cried, but I'll bet it's not cleaning fog. Breathe this, sir. She opened the vial, holding it under his nose. Vapor puffed out. Style took the vial, sniffing it as the first waft of the other gas reached him. The vial's vapor was sweet and pleasant. The other gas was sour and stinging. Sheen returned to the locked door. She opened her front cabinet, the left breast swinging out on hinges to reveal an array of small tools. Even in this crisis, Style marveled at the completely womanish texture of that breast, when in fact it was a mere facade. Robotry was quite sophisticated. In a moment, Sheen had burned through the lock with a tiny laser unit and had the passage open. Style hurried through. Sheen shut the door behind them, blocking off the gas, and closed up her breast cabinet. She was whole and normal and soft again. Style felt woozy and sick. The antidote in the vial had helped, but the poison gas was nasty stuff. Someone had tried to exterminate him. Merle appeared. She was wearing a translucent negligee that did wonders for a body that hardly needed them. Style noticed, but hardly cared. He suffered himself to be led inside the citizen's dome. "I knew they were going to try something," Merle said. "I thought it would be at the game annex. I tried to get you here to safety, but they were too quick. I couldn't say anything on the holo. Even a private line is only as private as the technology behind it." "Our staff forwarded the antidote, sir," Sheen told her. Style sat in the comfortable chair where they had placed him, lacking initiative to do more than listen. "My staff has found a better neutralizer," Merle said. She brought a breathing mask. "Use this, Style." She fitted it over his face. Immediately his head began to clear, and his stricken body recovered. "The official indication is a malfunction in the cleaning apparatus," Merle continued. "It's not supposed to fog when anyone is there, and this time the wrong chemicals were used. We won't be able to trace it, but I know the cause. There are activist citizens who want you out of the way, Style. I fear this is but the first attempt. You should be safe here, however." Style removed the breathing mask and smiled weakly. "I thought you had another notion, Merle." "Oh, I do. We have been through this before. But I do like you personally, Style, and wish you well. You're the most refreshing thing to appear on the scene in some time. Fortunately, the two notions are not incompatible." "I fear they are, Merle. You have helped me get into a difficult situation." Styles' head had cleared, but his body remained weak. He believed he could trust this woman. "Do tell me," she urged. "I love challenges." "Are we private here?" "Of course. I am neither as young nor as naive as I try to appear." "Will you keep my confidence?" "About the liaison? Of course not. That must be known, or it doesn't count." "About whatever I may tell you of my situation." "I can't guarantee that, Style. I know something about your situation already." "Maybe you should tell me what you know then." "You are known as the Blue Adept in the other frame. Oh yes, I have been to phase. My other self lacked rejuvenation and modern medicine and died a few years back of natural complications, freeing me. But magic is not for me. I remained there only a few hours and retreated to the safety of my dome here. The germs there are something fierce. I do, however, have a fold of the curtain passing through my property. I pay a harpy well to update me periodically on phase developments. This is how I learned more of you, once my interest in you was aroused. You have been honeymooning with your lovely phase wife, but adepts have been laying snares for you, until recently you disappeared into the domain of the goblins. My informant thought you dead, though she reports a dragon and a hawk emerged safely and flew rapidly southeast, eluding pursuit by adept sendings. Evidently, you survived by crossing the curtain. You seem to be a figure of some importance in phase, and perhaps in Proton too, judging by this assassination attempt." "What could you pay a harpy to serve you?" Style asked, intrigued by this detail. "She loves blood-soaked raw meat, but is too old and frail to catch it herself." "The others of her flock would provide," Style said, thinking of the harpy attack Clef had weathered upon his entry into phase. How important that entry had turned out to be. "This one is a loner. No flock helps her." "Is she by chance your other self?" Merle stiffened, then relaxed. "Oh, you have a sharp tongue, Style. No, it doesn't work that way, or I couldn't cross. My other self was exactly like me, only she seemed older. She did befriend the harpy, and when she died, I assumed the burden of that friendship. It is not easy to get along with a harpy. Now, will you tell me what I do not know about yourself? Will you accept that information in lieu of the sexual liaison? No, of course not, Style. I accept it in exchange for the protection I am offering you here, and for the information I am giving you about the citizen plot against you. She would not be swayed from her objective. She wanted another notch for her garter. He would have to give her the full story, and hope it would persuade her to help him without insisting on the liaison. She might be displeased to learn about his bet in that connection, but at least it was no affront to her pride. There was a chime and a glimmer of light in the air. "That's my holo," Merle said. "Call for you, Style. Intercepted by my private sea intercept." "Better let it through," he said. "The enemy citizens know I'm here anyway." The picture formed. It was the brown adept. "The creatures don't believe me, Blue," she said tearfully. "They think I'm with the bad adepts, trying to fool them. They are attacking my golems." Style sighed. He should have known. What would it take to convince him? "Only thee thyself, Blue. Or maybe one of thy close friends. Or the Lady Blue." "No. The Lady Blue must remain guarded by the unicorns. The adepts will be watching her." "Maybe Nasa. She's friends with everybody." "The herd stallion won't let her go." Style hardly objected to the care provided for Nasa in her gravid state. Then he had an idea. "Thy demesne are near to the range of the werewolves, are they not? Curlgeyer's pack?" She brightened. "Sure, Blue. They come here all the time, hunting. But they don't believe me either." But if Curlgeyer believed, his pack would help. The other animals would believe him. "I guess so," she agreed dubiously. "But thou wouldst have to tell him thyself." "I will," Style said. "Give me half an hour." Brown's smile was like moonlight. "Oh, thank thee, Blue." "Nay, thank thee, Brown. It's an important service thou dost here." "Gee." The happy image faded. "So, that's the brown adept," Sheen said. "A child. A cute child." "She's a full sorceress, though," Style said. "Her golems are tough creatures." He remembered his encounter with the golem shaped in his own image. He was glad to have those wooden men on his side, this time. He turned to Merle. "Now I have to explain to you my reason for not wishing to have this liaison. Then hurry across your section of the curtain to straighten things out in phase." "No need to explain," Merle said. "I can see you are very busy, with people depending on you. I'll chalk this one up to experience." "I do need your help," Style said, "so I want you to understand." "You shall have my help, Style. If that sweet child believes in you, so must I. I'm sure she is not asking any quid pro quo." "Well, she may want to ride on a unicorn," Style said, wondering whether he could believe this abrupt change of heart on her part. "But you still deserve to know." "About your secret bet?" Merle said. "That's what made it such a challenge, Style. But if you lose your fortune and can't do what you need to, that brown-eyed child will suffer, and I don't want that on my withered conscience. I'll show you to my corner of the curtain. That will get you neatly past the ambush waiting you outside." Style stood, taking her hand. "I really appreciate this, Merle." She drew him in for a kiss. "I think it was that child's these and thys. You did it too when you answered her. Somehow, that melts me. I haven't been this foolish in decades." They were before the curtain. It scintillated across Merle's huge, round, bouncy bed. No coincidence, that. She probably had a demon lover in the other frame. Beyond, Style could discern the slope of a wooded hillside. "How will I rejoin you?" Sheen asked. You'll come with me, Style decided. By now, the enemy citizens know how useful you are. They'll be trying to take you out, too. He picked her up, strode across the bed, and willed himself through the curtain. He stood on the forest slope, the inert robot in his arms. In phase, she was defunct. Take this form of Sheen's to the wolves' demesnes, he sang. This was simplified. What he intended was for them both to travel there. They arrived in good order. The wolves were snoozing in the vicinity of a recent kill, while several of the cubs growled at a golem that they had treed. Half a dozen roused and charged Style, converting to men and women as they drew near.
Greetings, Blue Adept,
Kurlgeir exclaimed, recognizing him.
I see thou hast found a defective golem.
Style glanced down at Sheen, startled. I suppose I have, friend. In the other frame, she is my fiancée.
Ah, a bitch in every frame. Dost thou bring her here for animation by the brown adept?
Again, Style was startled. Would such magic work? He would have to inquire. I came to advise thee that I am at odds with the other adepts, who seek to slay me. Thus I cannot stay here long, lest they discover me and strike. Only the brown adept is with me, and I have asked her to spread warning to the tribes of the creatures of phase, whose help I may be needing soon. Oh! Kurlgeir howled, glancing at the tree.
I turned her down.
I know, Style cut in. I should have prepared better. Things have been very rushed. Now must I beg thee to help me by helping her. If thy wolves will go with her golems to give them credence.
Aye, immediately,
Kurlgeir agreed. He made a signal at the tree, and the cubs quickly retreated, allowing the golem to come down.
Had I but realized before.
Style clapped him on the shoulder. I thank thee. Now I must flee. There was a wrenching. Oops, he had made an inadvertent rhyme, with Sheen leaning against him. Quickly, he took better hold of her and willed himself to the brown demesne. It worked. He landed neatly in the foyer of the wooden castle. The giant golem on guard did a double take, but managed to recognize him before clubbing him. In a moment, the brown adept was there.
That's not one of mine,
she exclaimed, seeing the inert Sheen in his arms. This is Sheen, my proton fiancée. She was with me when thou didst call a little while ago. She'll be all right when we cross the curtain. I just talked to Kurlgeir, and the wolves will cooperate. Instruct thy golems. A wolf will go with each.
Oh, goody.
But her attention was focused on Sheen.
I don't usually animate metal, but I can when I try. Of course, her personality might not be the same.
Style had not intended to get into this now, but again he was intrigued. Sheen always wanted to come to phase, but she's scientific. Thy golems are magic, and won't operate in proton. I don't think it could work.
Let me try, Blue. If I animate her, thou wilt not have to carry her.
I'm in a hurry, Brown. The hostile adepts could spot me at any moment. There isn't time.
Why dost thou not want me to animate her here?
She asked, with the direct naivete of a child. That stopped Style. The Lady Blue, his wife, was in phase, yet she could cross to proton, where she had met Sheen. There really was no conflict. How fast canst thou do it?
She is fully formed.
Brown squinted at Sheen's torso critically.
Very fully formed. I have only to lay on my hands and concentrate. Most of the time I spend fashioning a golem is carving it to the shape before animation.
Try it then. But if she is not herself, the golems can be...
Then will I de-animate her.
Brown leaned over Sheen, where Style placed her on the ground, and ran her hands over the body. Then she pressed her fingers across the face. Sheen stirred. Her eyes opened. Style stood back, abruptly nervous. Golems were non-living things, soulless ones animated only by magic. Brown's ability to make them function was phenomenal. But what monster in Sheen's image might rouse here? Sheen sat up, shaking her head. She saw Style. "Oh, we're back," she said. "I must have been set back by the deactivation. I feel funny." She was herself. "Thou dost know me?" Style asked, hardly daring to believe. A new golem would have no knowledge of him. "Of course I know you, Style. I'm not that forgetful, unless my memory banks get erased. And this child is the one who called you on the holo. Sheen broke off, surprised. "What is she doing here?" "This is Phase," Style said. "The brown demine." Sheen blinked. "I don't believe that is possible. I can't function across the curtain. You know that."
"I animated thee," the child said. "Thou art now a golem."
Sheen looked around, taking in the scene. She saw the wooden walls of the castle and the golem standing near. "May I inspect this region?" Style was becoming nervous about the time. "Do it quickly, Sheen. Thou wilt be inert again if the enemy adepts discover our presence here and attack." He was almost fidgeting.
"I think they are distracted by other events," Brown said. "They know not what my golems are doing."
Sheen completed her survey extremely quickly. "There is no dome. The air is natural. This is the other world. Will I remain animate? I feel no different."
"Yes," the brown adept said. "My golems never die unless they are destroyed."
Tactfully, she did not mention her ability to turn them off. "Yet I am not alive," Sheen sadly.
"That is beyond the power of magic,"
Brown agreed. "End of science," Style added. "Now must we go?" He took Sheen's hand and sang a spell to take them to a private section of the curtain. One thing he had done during his honeymoon was survey likely crossing places. They landed in a secluded glade in the Purple Mountain foothills. "Now that's an experience," Sheen exclaimed. "It really is a magic land." "It really is," Style agreed. "Art thou able to cross the curtain by thyself now?" Sheen tried, but could not. "I am not alive," she repeated. "I have no power to do what living creatures do." Style took her hand again and willed them across. They stood in a vehicle storage garage. "Do you remember?" he asked. "I remember Phase," she said. "I have not changed. Only your language has changed. So there is no loss of continuity as you shift from magic to science." "None at all. I am the same." "I wish I were not." "Now let's get that book of magic before we are diverted again. We're close to a game annex terminal by no coincidence. I can contact the game computer privately there." "Let me do it," Sheen said. "There may be another ambush." "You're my fiancé. I shouldn't let you take all the risks." "Without you, I am nothing. Without me, you are a leading citizen and adept, capable of saving Phase and helping my friends. Stand back, sir." Style smiled and shrugged. "Give me the Book of Magic," she said to the game access terminal, adding the code. "Why?" the computer asked. "The blue adept means to return it to Phase and there use it to abate the crisis." "One moment," the machine said. "While it is on its way, will you accept a message for the blue adept?" "Yes. A consortium of opposing citizens, interested in profiting from a necessary action, proffers this wager. The entire amount of Citizen Styles' fortune at the time, that he will not survive until the start of tonight's business meeting of citizens." "I'll take that bet," Style called, realizing that he could not lose it. If he died prematurely, all was lost anyway. If he lived, his fortune and power would be doubled again. Double or nothing, right when he wanted it.
Citizen Style accepts the wager, Sheen said. If he dies, his estate will be liquidated and assigned to the consortium. If he appears at that meeting alive, his fortune will in that instant be doubled, and he will immediately be able to wield the full leverage of it. The wager is so entered. The doubling cube has been turned. The game computer made a bleep that was its way of coughing apologetically. I have no part of this threat other than serving as a conduit for the wager. It was not necessary for the citizen to be concerned about an ambush on my premises. Neither am I permitted to warn him of any potential threat immediately beyond my premises.
That's warning enough, Style muttered. Move out, Sheen. Sheen paused only long enough to pick up the package the delivery slot delivered. The Book of Magic. They fled down a hall.
Weapons are not permitted on game premises unless part of a designated game, the game computer announced.
It's not warning us, just making a public announcement. Officially, Style said with a grim smile. Is a game computer really one of your friends?
Yes, she said.
A man appeared in the hall ahead. He looked like an ordinary serf, but he stood before them with a suggestive posture of readiness. That's a robot, Style said.
That's a killer machine, Sheen agreed. Style, I am a dual-purpose robot, designed for defense and personality. That is a specialized attack vehicle. I am not equipped to handle it. You must flee it immediately. I can delay it only a moment.
Style dived for a panel. He tore open a section of the wall where he knew power lines ran. There they were, brightly colored cables, intended to be quite clearly coded for stupid maintenance personnel. He took a red one in both hands and yanked. It ripped free as the enemy robot came near.
Get well away, Sheen, he cried. Style, you'll electrocute yourself, she cried in horror.
Now he took hold of a white cable. This, too, tore from its mooring, which was a magnetic clamp. As the killer robot reached for him, Style jammed both raw cable ends at its body. Power arced and crackled, electrifying the machine. The robot collapsed.
You took a terrible chance, Sheen admonished him as they hurried on. You could have been electrocuted just pulling those cables out.
The power was cut off to free the magnetic clamps, Style said. The danger was apparent, not real.
How could you know that?
She sounded flustered. The game computer is one of your friends, he reminded her.
Oh.
For her friend stood ready to help him, covertly. The computer had cut off power, then restored it. How could such a brief collusion ever be spotted? Style knew exactly how to use the assistance of the self-willed machines when he needed to. Fortunately, the specialized killer machine had been stupid. The passage led to the minicar racing track, a favorite game of the younger set. Style had won many such races. His small size gave him an advantage in these little vehicles. However, this time he only wanted to bypass the cars and reach the exit passage. A man burst into the premises. This one was a genuine human serf, but he had a laser pistol. This was evidently the one the game computer had warned away. Unfortunately, outside the actual games, the computer had little power. It could protest and warn, not usually enforce. It could summon guards, but if it did so in this case, the other citizens would be alerted, and that was not to Style's interest. Style would have to fight this one out alone. The computer had helped all it could.
Sheen, get out of here, he whispered urgently. Use the service passages and airless sections to confound human pursuit. Get the Book of Magic across the curtain. But I must protect you, she protested. You can protect me best by getting away from me right now. I can do tricks alone that I can't with company. Meet me later. He paused to decide on a suitably unlikely place. Meet me at Merle's dome. They booby-trapped that once. They won't expect me to go near it again. If you prefer, wait for me just beyond the curtain, in phase. Oh, I forgot. You can't cross by yourself. Maybe Merle will help you cross. She did not argue further. I love you. She faded away. Styles jumped into the nearest car and accelerated it onto the main playing grid. Ordinarily, he would have had to obtain license from the game computer to play, but citizens were exempt from such rules. The pursuing man, however, was a serf. He had to honor this rule, or the computer would shut down the game, apply a stasis field, and arrest him. Here, the computer had power, when there was a valid pretext to exert it. As it was, the computer knew the man was up to mischief, and had already warned him about carrying the pistol. The various ramps, intersections, and passing zones were arrayed in three-dimensional intricacy, so that the total driving area was many kilometers long, despite the confinement of the dome. Style was well familiar with this layout. The armed man had been stalking him cautiously. Now the man had to get into another car to keep up. To do this, he had to get a partner and enlist in the game. But he was prepared for this. A henchman got into another car and started the pursuit. Theoretically, they were chasing each other. Actually, they were both after Style. Style smiled grimly. These would-be killers would have more of a chase than they liked. They were up against an expert gamesman. A tourney winner, in fact. Style could shoot his car through the maze of paths. He could exit quickly, but that would only mean the armed men would follow. It was better to handle the situation here, where the terrain favored Style, and then escape cleanly. A beam of light passed to Style's right. The armed man had fired his laser, missing because of the difficulty of aiming when the cars were going in different directions at different speeds. But the shot was close enough so that Style knew the man had some skill. He would score if given a better opportunity. Now the computer could not shut down the game, though the laser shot had provided sufficient pretext, because when the cars stopped, the assassin would score on Style. Style swung around a turn, putting a lamp between himself and the pursuer. He checked the minicar, but there was nothing in it he could throw. He would have to maneuver until he could find a way to put the man out of commission. The problem was, these vehicles were small, but safe. They would not travel fast enough to leave the track, and the set was designed to prevent collisions. Such games were supposed to seem far more dangerous than they were in fact. Style might scare his opponent, but could not actually hurt him with the car. Still, there were ways. Style slowed his car, allowing the man to catch up somewhat. Then, just as the man was leveling his laser, Style accelerated into a loop, going up and over and through. The man, caught by surprise, had to accelerate his own car and hang on. The cars could not fall, even if they stalled upside down at the top of a loop, and the automatic seatbelts would hold the occupants fast. The man evidently did not know that. Style moved on into a roller coaster series, going up and down at increasing velocity. The man followed, looking uncomfortable. He was fairly solid, and his belly lightened and settled with each change of elevation. That could start the queasies. Then Style looped into a tunnel with a good lead, emerged to spin into a tight turn, and crossed over the other track just as the pursuer shot out of the tunnel. Style had removed his robe. He dropped it neatly over the man's head. The man reacted violently, clawing at the voluminous material that the wind plastered to his face, while the car continued along the track. Style slowed his own car, letting the other catch up. Just as the man managed to get free of the robe, Style jumped from one car to the other, having also circumvented the seat restraint. He caught the man's neck in a nerve strangle, rendering him instantly unconscious, and took the laser pistol from his hand. Then he jumped back to his own car and accelerated away. Such jumps from car to car were supposed to be impossible, but Style was a skilled gymnast, able to do what few others could contemplate. Now he zoomed for the exit. He had left his robe behind. It made identification too easy for his assassination-minded pursuers.
Still, being a serf was not enough camouflage. There would be other assassins on the prowl for him, closing on this region. The majority of citizens, like the Adepts, seemed to be against him. They had tremendous resources that would be overpowering once they got the focus. He needed to get far away from here in a hurry. Could he retreat to the curtain, as he had done when the Adepts had had him pinned in the cavern? No, they would be watching the segments of it through which he had entered Proton this time. He had to surprise them. Camouflage seemed to be the answer, but what kind? Already Style was making his decision. The most common and least noticed entities in Proton were machines, ranging from self-propelled hall brushers to humanoid robots. Some were sophisticated emulations of individuality, like Sheen, but most were cruder. Style paused at a food machine and got some Nutritaffy. This he used to shape bulges at his knees and elbows and to camouflage the configuration of his neck and crotch. He now resembled a small, sexless, menial humanoid robot that had been used in a candy kitchen. He walked somewhat stiffly and set a fixed smile on his face, since this grade of machine lacked facial mobility. Style was, of course, a practiced mimic. He was unable to eliminate his natural body heat, but hoped no one would check him that closely. It worked. Serfs passed him without paying any attention. There was a checkpoint guarded by two brute androids, but they were looking for a man, not a taffy-odored machine. Style walked stiffly by, unchallenged. He was probably safe now, but he did not gamble. He continued his robot walk to a transport capsule and rode to the vicinity of Merle's dome, then took the service entrance. Even here there was no challenge. Functionaries were constantly in and out of citizens' estates on myriad errands. But Merle was expecting him. "Style, I want you to know I sincerely regret this," she said. "Extreme pressure has been put on me. Believe me, I am helping you in my fashion." She touched a button. Style leaped to intercept her motion, but was too late. Stasis caught him. Merle had betrayed him. Why hadn't he anticipated that? He could so readily have gotten around her had he only been alert. He had allowed a woman to make a fool of him. He was cleaned and packaged and loaded into a transport capsule. He could feel the motion without seeing anything. The capsule moved swiftly south, by the feel of it. At length it slowed and he was unloaded. The stasis released. Style found himself in a barred chamber, and with him was Sheen. She was inert. Her power cell had been removed. The disaster was complete. There was no sign of the Book of Magic. A speaker addressed him. "Serf, you have been assigned to this mine because you have excellent manual dexterity. You will be granted 1 hour to familiarize yourself with the controls. Then you will be expected to commence processing the ore in your bailiwick. You will have a rest break in your cell of 15 minutes after each hour, provided your production is satisfactory. Superior performance will result in promotion. Press the advise button if there is any problem. Malingering will not be tolerated." Style knew better than to protest. He had been shanghaied here to get out of the way. Once he failed to appear at the business meeting, he would lose his fortune, be voted out of citizenship, become a serf in fact, and probably be deported. He didn't even blame Merle. She had done this instead of killing him. Perhaps she had reported him dead. No doubt her own citizenship had been placed in the balance. The opposition, in Proton as in Phase, played hardball. What could he do? A quick inspection of the chamber satisfied him that he could not escape. The Protonite miners were not trusted. Each was locked in his cell during working hours, even though he never directly handled the valuable mineral. Security was extremely tight in the mines. If Style tried to interfere with any of the equipment or wiring, there would be an alarm and immediate punishment. If he tried to sabotage the mining operation, he would be executed. All he could do was cooperate. Style got to work on the mining. He familiarized himself with the controls in moments, and soon had his survey screen on. Could he use this to get in touch with the Brown Adept? No, this was a different circuit, and even if he could call outside, the monitor would intercept, and he would be in instant trouble, possibly of a mortal nature. Best to sit tight. Probably the game was lost. He had mainly himself to blame. The exigencies of the moment had forced an oversight. Of course, he was not entirely alone. The Lady Blue knew he was in Proton, and she would be concerned about his failure to reappear. But she had not been keeping close track of him. She would not really be alarmed until some hours or days had passed without news, and that would be too late. He would have missed the business meeting and the juxtaposition of frames. In any event, the enemy citizens would now be alert for her. Style did not want the Lady Blue exposing herself to possible assassination. What about the self-willed machines? They might be able to help, if Merle had not acted to conceal his abduction from their view. Since she knew a good deal about him and had referred to Sheen's friends, she had probably done just that. And if the sapient machines did locate him, they would still hesitate to reveal their true nature by acting overtly on his behalf. He could not count on their rescuing him. That left it up to the Brown Adept, who would be unable to reach him. And what could she do if she did? She was a child who would have no magic in this frame, assuming she could cross the curtain. Best to establish no false hopes. If help were on the way, it would succeed or fail regardless of his concern. He was good at mining. Under his direction, the remote-controlled machinery operated efficiently. In 2 hours, he had extracted 0.5 gram of protonite from the ore, a full day's quota. Whether citizen or serf, adept or slave, he intended to do his best, though this sort of mining would soon have to stop, if the frames were to be saved. Ironic his effort here. Then the gate opened. An apparition stood there. The tallest, thinnest, ugliest android he had ever seen. Except that it wasn't an android, but a man. No, not exactly a man. Style's spinning mental gears finally made an improbable connection. "The troll!" he exclaimed. "Trool, the troll, in proton frame."
"I must rescue thee from confinement 3 times,
Trool said. Style nodded. "This is the third, for me and mine. More than amply hast thou fulfilled the prophecy. Sincerely do I thank thee, Trool." There was no point in adhering to proton language. The troll would only be confused.
"It is not done yet,"
the troll said. "Thou hast done enough," Style said. "Thou hast freed me." Trool shrugged and stooped to pick Sheen up. He shambled through the door, carrying her, and Style followed. Trolls had a way with subterranean regions. Trool took them down into the depths of the mines, passing locks and checkpoints without challenge, until they were in the lowest crude tunnels. Here there were only machines, the forward end of the remote control chain. Here, too, was the protonite ore, the stuff of Proton's fortune and misfortune. "How are things doing in Phase at the moment?" Style inquired.
"The hosts are massing as for war,"
Trool replied.
"All are with thee except the adepts, the goblins, and scattered monsters."
"All?" Style asked, amazed. "Even the tribes of demons?"
"Thou hast made many friends, adept, especially among the snow monsters and fire spirits."
Ah, his favor for Freeze-Tooth was paying a dividend. "All I have done is the appropriate thing at the appropriate time." Basically, Style liked the various creatures of Phase and liked making friends. Yet I doubt that the harpies or dragons or thine own kind.
"The trolls are with thee."
Troll made a grimacing smile.
"I did see to that last. lest they call me traitor for helping thee. The harpies and dragons know no loyalty save to their own kind, unless compelled by cares. They take no sides.
Trool was surprisingly well informed. He seemed, under that ugliness, to be fairly smart and caring person. Style had assumed all trolls to be ignorant predators. He had been too narrow. Suddenly, they were at the curtain. Style saw the scintillation across the tunnel. They stepped through. Sheen awoke. "Who are you?" she demanded, finding herself in the troll's arms. "Thou hast no power pack," Style protested. "How canst thou animate?" She checked herself. "It's true. I must be in phase, in golem state." Style nodded, his surprise shifting to comprehension. Of course she needed no scientific mechanism here. Nonetheless, he conjured her a replacement power cell so that she would not be confined to phase. "Thou art a creature of both frames now." The troll led the way on up through the tunnel toward the surface. They followed. Style could have taken them out by a spell, but preferred to acquaint himself with the locale of the tunnel in case he should need it again. Also, he did not want to attract the baleful attention of the enemy adepts by using magic unnecessarily. Probably he should not have risked conjuring Sheen's power cell at this time. He kept forgetting. They neared the surface. Trool paused.
"There is yet day,"
he said.
"Needs must I remain below."
For he lacked his voluminous clothing, having had to discard it in order to masquerade as an android. "By all means," Style said. "Thou hast served us well, and fain would I call thee friend. We shall leave thee with our gratitude."
"It behooves not the like of thee to bestow friendship on the like of me,"
Trool said, gruffly pleased. He put his gnarled hands to the large flat rock that blocked the exit.
"Beyond this point it curves to the surface."
He heaved. Suddenly the roof caved in. Trool leaped back, shoving the other two clear.
"Someone has tampered."
Sunlight shone brilliantly down from above, angling in from the new hole in the ceiling to bathe the troll. "Sabotage!" Sheen exclaimed. "It would have crushed one of us." "Surely," Style agreed. "That trap was meant for me." "Look at Trool!" she cried, horrified. Style looked. The troll had been instantly destroyed by the light. He was now a figure of stone, a grotesque statue. Suddenly it made a terrible kind of sense. Style remembered how Cyril Ryan, the werebitch, had been fated to see the she 3 times before she died. She had seen them the 3rd time, then died. Trool had been fated to help Style 3 times. He had done that, and had now been terminated. "Damn it! This time I'm going to fight fate," Style said angrily. Dear Lord, was that a long chapter, guys. Welcome back, Monkey Killer. Hello, everyone who has been here with me. That chapter was like almost 2.5 freaking hours. I'm still going to give you guys another chapter. I try to give you 2 a night. So we're still going to do chapter 11, but dear God, I was starting to wonder if somehow I had missed the start of chapter 11 in there.
"Water. Needs must I have water now."
I hope you guys are enjoying. Welcome on in, everybody. Thanks to have you guys here with me. I love it. Sometimes these chapters are short. I want to say one of the first chapters I did, I ended up doing 3 chapters that week because and let me go and I'm just curious now. Let's go to a new tab. And we'll go to here.
And if I go to my playlists,
Actually, I can just go to my videos. Let's see. Yeah, chapter 2 was 23 minutes long. This one, like 2 hours and 20 minutes. I'm telling you, can't people make chapters the same length? Anyway, glad to have you guys continuing to be here with me. Hope you guys are enjoying the reading. Definitely was longer than I expected this chapter to be, but hey, what are you going to do? Glad to have you guys here with me no matter what, and I hope you guys are continuing to enjoy it. I know I sure am. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and pick up, and maybe I'll drink a little bit more. And then we'll start into chapter 11. Now let's see if I can find out really quickly how long chapter 11 is.
it can't be that long. This was wildly long.
And then there's only one chapter left after this. So, you know what? Let me leave it for you guys for a minute. And let's see. Would you guys like me to do chapter 11 tonight? Or would you like me to save chapter 11 and 12 for Tuesday? I am open to either option. And in fact, depending on how long chapter 11 is, maybe we just do chapter 12 tonight as well, finish the book, and start a new book on Tuesday. All right, I am hearing definitely okay, so Joy in General thinks let's save it. Susan Morgan, I want to say you're saying let's continue. That leaves us with Monkey Killer. I'll leave you, because you're the other one that I've heard from tonight. Would you like to be the tiebreaker? Do I continue tonight and possibly finish the book? Or do I call it here and continue on Thursday? You know what? Let me do it this way. At Frosty Tools, give me a number, 1 or 2. If it's 1, we continue. If it's 2, we'll stop here and we'll finish it on Tuesday. Let's see what Frosty Tools has to say for me. Leave it in the hands of AI. The age-old dilemma, a fork in the narrative road where every decision echoes through the plot. Path 1, a familiar journey. Path 2, a plunge into the unknown. As the architect of this unfolding tale, I must weigh the dramatic tension, the character arcs, the sheer audacity of consequence. And so the die is cast. 2. Let the unexpected twists begin. I love Frosty Tools. Frosty Tools is just so awesome. So Frosty Tools is telling us that we should that we should go ahead and save it for Tuesday. So I will let the powers of fate compel us with Tuesday as a wrap up of this book. But for a moment, let us zoom in on my constant companion through my streams. Hello, Peppa. My dogs are always sitting here with me as I do these streams, so it's kind of fun that way. So what we will do is we will go ahead and hold this off for Tuesday. Again, that first chapter was a really long chapter. I would not have even asked if it had not been as long as it was. But with it being as long as it was there, I am pretty okay with. There you go. She's laying down. This is literally what she does through most of it. She sits there, she lays, she'll sleep, she'll snore, she'll stare at me. But she's a good girl. Right, Ginger? And the other one, who is hiding on the floor. All right, guys. So the plan will be that we will go ahead and finish this book on Tuesday. We will finish through chapters 11 and 12. I do want to remind you guys that what I will be moving into from here, we are stepping away from Piers Anthony for a little bit, and we will be stepping towards Murder at Maplewood Manor. At Maplewood Manor, which is, I have been in contact with the author, and she has asked that I read this on stream, so I will do so. So if you are curious on picking up the book ahead of that stream, I am putting the link into chat right now. It is available out on Amazon. If you happen to be a Kindle Unlimited subscriber, it's on Kindle Unlimited. And so, we'll plan to start this one next Saturday. With the Kindle Unlimited, you can certainly pick up the book, read along with me, page through. I was looking it up today. Kindle Unlimited pays the authors based on how many pages of their books have been read. So, if you want to support the author, you can pick up the book, you can read it on Kindle Unlimited, or you can just spend some time with me, and we'll make sure that we are giving some shout outs to this author. I'll have another book after that once that comes about, but that will give you an idea of where we are headed from here. And I will plan to come back on Tuesday, because Tuesday will be my next stream. And so on Tuesday, we will come along and read this book. We will finish out Juxtaposition, which means we will also have all of the chapters up on YouTube for your listening and watching pleasure. youtube.com/@SirArminius. If you haven't done so already, make sure you stop out there and subscribe if you would. Other than that, thank you so much for being here with me tonight, guys. That was a long chapter, but it was a good one. I mean, there was so much exciting that happened in that chapter that he definitely could have broken it up into 2 chapters there, but wanted an even number of chapters. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. It was a good chapter. I enjoyed the hell out of it, and I hope you guys did too. Remember, Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, will be the start of our exciting conclusion of Juxtaposition. If for any reason you are not able to come along and join me, I understand. Real life is an important thing. Like I was saying when I started my stream, I didn't do anything yesterday because I decided to spend the time with my wife. We don't get a lot of opportunities to be able to spend time with each other. Got one adult kid in college, 17 and a 16-year-old, both involved in sports. We both work full-time jobs regularly. We don't always find as much time to spend with each other. And so real life is important. If you're not able to join me for the live stream, I totally get it. Check out the replays on YouTube. You know I'll save it. You know I'll post it. And you know it'll be there for you. Other than that, I hope you guys all have a fantastic and wonderful weekend. And I look forward to seeing you guys again really soon. Have a great night, everybody, and a fantastic weekend. Good night, all.